Generally speaking, Reddit is not a place that you go to stand out. Even with the introduction of more fully fleshed out user profiles in 2017, Reddit is a site that's just not simply conducive to homing in on individual usernames unless someone points them out. But every so often, an individual user will start to get noticed by the greater Reddit community. Usually it's just some kind of gimmick account. Like the poem guy, or the drawing guy, or the other drawing guy. Other times it's due to a running joke, like War Lizard constantly getting asked about his forums, or For the Wolf X who simply said that he wanted to be Reddit famous. And then there's the Redditors who rise to the top simply because they're good at accumulating a lot of karma. These types of Redditors, often referred to as power users, are typically reviled by the community. Does anyone have a list of power users to block? But there is one famous Redditor who is beloved by most of the community, a biologist named Unidan. Unidan would often respond to scientific questions with useful, thought-out answers. A pillar of the Reddit community, yet if you go to his profile today, it's gone. So what happened to Unidan? This is the story of one of Reddit's most beloved power users, and the scandal that chased him off the website. This video is made possible by Kaspersky. I made reference a few times on this channel to just how much of a disaster Windows XP was for me. I mean, it seemed like I would click on any website, go anywhere, and just my computer would just instantly fill with viruses and all kinds of junk. Malware, keyloggers. Totally innocuous stuff just filling my computer up with garbage, and of course, I was going around to all kinds of websites back in the day, obviously. And these experiences made me very fastidious about my computer security, at least I thought so. You see, I was wrong, and I realized this once again, this time when I was playing Diablo 3 a lot, of all things. Back in those days, I'd basically missed the whole Stone of Jordan economy of Diablo 2, but when Diablo 3 came around, I was there at the ground level, and I had fortunately gotten all kinds of good stuff for my character, stuff that really fit my build, and other stuff that, I could put on the real money auction house for some Skrilla. But then one day I log in and my character is completely naked, no items or equipment of any kind, so I figured some kind of a glitch. I turned the game off and back on because that usually works, but it didn't work this time, it was still nothing. Get on the phone with customer service and yeah, someone had logged into my account and wiped me out completely, and they thought once again the culprit was a keylogger. And it was wild, that feeling of having my privacy violated. It felt like someone broke into my actual house and took my stuff. And last year, 1 in 4 people had their private information accessed without their permission, which, if you scaled to the number of subscribers that I have on this channel, that would be like 100,000 of you guys. If you want to avoid having these kinds of things happen, Kaspersky Cybersecurity can help keep your computer safe. They've repelled billions of cybersecurity attacks and have been in business for over 20 years. #MyPrivacyMatters. If you've had your privacy online compromised, let me know in the comment section, tell me your story. And click the link in the description box for a 60% discount on Kaspersky Total Security. Falls from grace are pretty common on the internet. It seems like we see them almost every day nowadays. But it's rare for such a positive force in an online community to come apart at the seams in such a peculiar way as what happened to Unidan. So let's start at the beginning. Unidan had a pretty inauspicious start on Reddit with a number of submissions that went mostly unnoticed. It wasn't until he commented on a post entitled, "I am a woman in an adult nursing relationship with my husband, AMA," that he started to build the reputation that would make him a fixture on the website. When someone asked a question about how it would be possible for a childless woman to lactate, he responded, "Biologist here, nipple stimulation, typically by an infant, will trigger the production of prolactin, which will then cause lactation. How long would this sort of thing take to be induced by an adult? It should technically be about the same, if the pressure exerted was similar. Nipples don't have eyes to tell the difference. I know this, because I am a biologist." And from that point on, it was history. Unidan had found his niche in the Reddit ecosystem and would continue to respond to biology-related questions throughout the site. In a thread asking the most unbelievable fact he responded, "Ecologist here. This may not sound interesting to anyone, but one of the craziest facts that I've come across in my work is in regards to tropical forests. Tropical rainforests in the Amazon have their soil nutrients periodically replenished by the Sahara Desert. Wind blows dust particles all the way from the desert, across the ocean, to the tropics where the sand and its associated nutrients help the fertility of the rainforest. And his responses to other users throughout this thread gives a good sampling of what people came to expect from him. Ants have more biomass than human. Biologist here, not sure why you're being downvoted, ants outweigh us by quite a bit. Guy who Google imaged it here, OP's claim checked out, fear the ants. Legitimately though, if ants were to suddenly collectively rise up against humans, it would be terrifying. Siafu, for example, have been known to climb inside of animals via their noses, walk down into their lungs, and chew on their respiratory tissues. This essentially suffocates the animal from the inside. Imagine, you're being covered in them while you sleep. You swat 1,000 off your chest. A few crawl on your body, clinging among your hairs. While you're busy killing those ants, 1,000 more have already begun to scale you while the others you missed inject you with a formic acid-laced bite. Imagine troops with no hesitation. An army that can utilize a single food source without losing morale. An army that would gladly sacrifice itself. If a bryophyte, example moss or liverworts, runs out of water, it just goes into suspended animation and comes back to life when it gets water, which means, theoretically, mosses can live forever. Biologist here, the reason for this is because bryophytes are non-vascular. This means that they do not have specialized tissues for conducting water or nutrients as, for example, trees do. Trees are vascular plants that have lignified, lignin being the compound that makes wood woody, cell structures that can conduct water. Bryophytes are much simpler. They do not contain many, if any, specialized cells, which means that each cell must gain its water essentially on its own. In liverworts, for example, this means its leaves are only one cell thick. This condition is referred to as poikilohydry, which is the ability to desiccate, dry out, without damage. On a side note, not all bryophytes are mosses. You should change your IE to an EG, as there are also liverworts and hornworts, which are cool guys too. Day in and day out, Unidan would leave comments like this, and he was quickly building an impressive following on a site that wasn't really tailored towards having followings. And after the feature was introduced, people would routinely tag him on biology-related questions. He even had a subreddit created for him named r/Unidan fans where people would just talk about him. And if you visit Urban Dictionary, he has his own entry, Unidan, a name given to anybody that is extremely knowledgeable about a given subject. That guy really knows a lot about aquariums. He's like a fish, Unidan. And on April 25th of 2013, Unidan mania came to a peak when he had his own AMA answering questions about the man behind the account. I am the Excited Biologist, AMA. Hi guys, I have some time off today after teaching, so after getting a whole mess of requests that I do one of these, here we are. I'm a field biologist, technically an ecosystem ecologist who primarily works with wild bird populations. I do other work in wetlands and urban ecosystems and have spent a good amount of time in the jungles of Costa Rica, where I fought off some of the deadliest snakes in the world, while working to restore the native tropical forests with the aid of the Costa Rican government. Aside from the biology, I used to perform comedy shows and was a cook for years. Ask me anything at all, and I'd be glad to respond. Although most of the questions weren't really questions and were mostly just praise, he did elaborate in a question by War Lizard, another famous Redditor that I plan to cover in the future. Please justify your existence. Sure thing. I help to make policy decisions involving water quality that affects people's drinking water and air quality. I also make recommendations for general health and safety. More recently, I helped redo plans for a business park that had planned to put a children's nursery on top of a former chemical spill site contaminated with perc. Additionally, I've done comedy shows to raise money for veterans and animal shelters. I worked in the jungle to re-establish tropical rainforests, preserving native biodiversity and habitat for rare species, and I'm currently a college instructor educating many of tomorrow's doctors and medical professionals. We also got to see just how passionate Unidan was about birds, a personality trait that would eventually be his undoing. So, you study birds? Can you tell me how a 5-ounce bird carries a 1-pound coconut? Are you suggesting that coconuts migrate? You are the expert. What have your studies shown? Coconuts do migrate, but swallows are not involved. They actually migrate through buoyancy and water currents. A better term would be disperse, as we don't quite expect that the coconuts will return home anytime soon. Best TIL ever, thank you. You're quite welcome. And Unidan's legacy would continue to grow for about another year, until that fateful day, July 30th of 2014, when this image was posted to r/advice animals. Wow, Qatar is using human slavery to build stadiums for the 2022 World Cup. Hey look, that crow is asking for water. This was in reference to a GIF that went viral the day before featuring a crow asking for water, because you know, if you enjoy pictures of cute animals, it just becomes completely impossible to care about world issues. You can't do both, it's gotta be one or the other. But the thing about the crow in that viral GIF, it wasn't exactly a crow, and this fact caused Unidan to go full Neil deGrasse Tyson. What if I told you, unless you own an army, there's really not much you can do about Qatar? What if I told you, the crow he's referring to is actually a jackdaw? I thought jackdaws were a type of crow. Nope, they're in the crow genus, but they usually get differentiated in the same way ravens do. And was in an exchange with a user named Eka6 where things got particularly heated. They're all part of the crow family. Do you call blue jays crows? No, I don't call jackdaws, rooks, or ravens crows either because I like to be specific. Doesn't change the fact that they're all a part of the crow family. Sure, so why would you call a jackdaw a crow? If you want to be specific, then you'd say they're a corvid. But hey, what would I know? I only research crows. Because most people don't know anything about birds and call the black ones crows. Most of the time they're not wrong in calling them crows either. I've never seen people argue over whether something is a jackdaw or a crow in my life. It's like arguing over whether someone's a human or an ape. Doesn't make sense to argue it. Also, calling them a corvid is less specific than saying a jackdaw, so I'm not sure what point you're trying to get across here. If you research crows, then you'd know that jackdaws and such are a part of the crow family. Here's the thing. You said a jackdaw is a crow. Is it in the same family? Yes. No one's arguing that. As someone who is a scientist who studies crows, I am telling you, specifically, in science, no one calls jackdaws crows. If you want to be specific, like you said, then you shouldn't either. They're not the same thing. If you're saying crow family, you're referring to the taxonomic group of Corvidae, which includes things from nutcrackers to blue jays to ravens. So your reasoning for calling a jackdaw a crow is because random people call the black ones crows? Let's get grackles and blackbirds in there then too. Also, calling someone a human or an ape is not one or the other. That's not how taxonomy works. They're both. A jackdaw is a jackdaw and a member of the crow family. But that's not what you said. You said a jackdaw is a crow, which is not true unless you're okay with calling all members of the crow family crows, which means you'd call blue jays, ravens, and other birds crows too, which you said you don't. It's okay to just admit you're wrong, you know. It goes on for much longer, but I think you get the picture. But whatever, you know, people get into petty arguments on Reddit all the time. It's like a core feature of the site, who cares, right? Well, someone did. Because later that day it was discovered that Unidan, the most beloved Redditor on all of Reddit, had been shadow banned. But why? One of the earliest theories that people had of why Unidan was shadow banned was that because of his popularity, anyone he argued against would be vote brigaded. But when asked about it later in a Reddit blog post, an admin named Cupcake1713 gave the real reason why Unidan was shadow banned. His ban had nothing to do with meta vote brigades. Can we explain what it did have to do with? He was caught using a number of alternate accounts to downvote people he was arguing with, upvote his own submissions and comments, and downvote submissions made around the same time he posted his own so that he got even more of an artificial popularity boost. It was some pretty blatant vote manipulation, which is against our site rules. That's right, Unidan, the excited biologist, the most famous Redditor and the only power user that people could stand, was caught manipulating votes in order to boost his own popularity. This had been going on for years, and he probably would have never gotten caught had he not gotten really mad online in a conversation about crows. Afterwards, Unidan would return with a new account on r/subreddit drama to say his piece. Here you go. Hey guys, first off, sorry. Secondly, sorry for abusing your trust. The whole shadow banning incident was due to me having created 5 alternate accounts which I never posted with, but would use mainly to bump things out of the new queue by upvoting myself and downvoting others. This is shitty for Reddit's voting system for many obvious reasons, and the rationale that I had behind it was selfish, mainly wanting things I was submitting to get more views, be it for a photo I thought was interesting, an AMA I was involved with, or a new video I had produced. Regardless of my intentions to share stuff with Reddit, it was wrong. Thirdly, sorry for flying off the handle during arguments. Some of the votes would be to bury misinformation or things I wholeheartedly disagreed with. It's also a shitty thing to do, since that's what the voting is for, not for me to control. Lastly, to set the record straight, if people still want to believe me, I've never raised any money for personal profit, or advertised anything that gained revenue from views that would benefit me, and not the project. The projects we raised money for on Reddit studying animals and creating books for children are entirely clean, I swear that on my life. So mainly, I fucked up. I'm genuinely sorry I did any of this stupidity in the first place and hope it can be forgiven. If not, hey, that's your choice. I can't use a alt to change that. If the administrators are okay with it, I'll be continuing to post science material and chat with folks under this account, and hopefully get back to my roots without all the drama. And, of course, I will never do something so stupid and trust violating again. Sorry. Ultimately, Reddit did allow him to continue posting from this new account Unidan X, and he did so up until 2018 where he disappeared. Throughout those years, he would make good on his promise to continue posting more science-related content, but with the added bonus now of people constantly taunting him about crows and jackdaws. And thus concludes the story of Unidan. If you like this video, you'll also like my video about the Hello My Future Girlfriend kid. Goodbye.